What's up, Packer fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. The very last day of Packers training camp 2023 was a hot, extremely hot and sweaty practice. You could tell some of the players had a little bit of an issue with the heat. Matt LaFleur had already called out one player previously, Emmanuel Wilson, for some of the conditioning. Probably not the worst thing in the world to get some high 90s weather, in the heat and kind of go through a 2-hour long practice. This was one where, I think I was talking to Pete Doherty and he's mentioning like a lot of running today. You could tell they ran the ball a ton early and often. And I think that was a little bit of a sort of conditioning day for Green Bay, to say the least. But as I mentioned, heat was definitely out there. You could tell maybe it affected a couple guys, a lot of guys down on one knee, getting some extra water, etc. We'll start with the bad news first from practice. The first thing is that there were a few injuries that took place and people dropping out of practice. The first one, Devonte Wyatt, he dropped out. It sounds like this might be heat/exhaustion/whatever related. It sounds like he was in the locker room after I did not have the opportunity to go to the locker room availability, but it sounds like he was there talking in good spirits, etc. So doesn't seem like anything serious with Wyatt, but he did drop out and did not return. We'll see if he is practicing on Thursday. Anthony Johnson Jr. was an interesting one. So I'm watching everyone on the defense come out of the lot or the Don Hutson Center and go go out and get ready to practice. And everyone's out, and then Anthony Johnson comes out with the team. He does not look right, like at all. Like he looks like he's limping. And I'm like, I mentioned Paul Brettel was standing next to me. And I'm like, is there something wrong with Anthony Johnson Jr.? It doesn't look right, but here he's going out to practice. Sure enough, a couple minutes later, he makes his way into the Hudson Center, walking with kind of a limp and just doesn't look right. Looks like he maybe got taped up inside. He ends up making his way back out and returning to practice, testing things out again. Still didn't look right. And sure enough, 2 minutes later, he's back in the Hudson Center. So kudos to him for trying to play through it and practice through it and just, kind of get through an injury and do the best he could. But you could tell immediately from the time that he was going out onto the practice field till the time that he left that he just did not look right. So not a doctor, not pretending to be a doctor, have no idea what the ailment or injury was. But like I said, didn't look to be a natural gait as he was sort of running along with everything. And again, tried to make it out to practice a couple times, just couldn't do it. And we'll see what happens through the remainder of this week. A player that you would love to see play in the preseason game this Saturday, but they're going to be cautious. My guess is he won't practice on Thursday. No practice on Thursday probably means no game on Saturday, but fingers crossed he's just okay tomorrow and ready to go. Then you had Christian Watson, who went down, and I didn't see the play. It looked like Douglas was by him. I don't know if it was non-contact or what, but kind of stayed down for a moment, and Douglas is like, you okay? And whatever. I don't know what he said, but you could just tell there seemed to be some level of concern. And then, Watson eventually popped up and he goes back and he, meets with a trainer for a little bit, and you're worried oh my goodness, maybe it's just time to end practice, right? Thankfully, he was fine. The very next team drill, he was out there ready to go. He did not drop out of practice. He was fine the rest of practice. And like I said, no injury concern there at all at this point, but just those scary moments, right? And then last but not least, you had a moment where somehow Darnell Savage and Romeo Doubs ended up colliding and just getting tangled up. It was a very, very awkward play. And you looked at it and you didn't know who got the worst of it. Were both guys going to be hurt? Romeo Doubs was able to get up and walk it off, and he was totally fine for the remainder of practice. Not so much for Darnell Savage. He walked away, went with a trainer. He stayed on the sidelines, but did not return to practice either. You could tell Nixon and Jair were they wanted to say hey, are you okay? And, wanted to see if he was okay and so on and so forth, but he did not return to practice in any capacity. So no idea if any of these are no concern whatsoever, and they're going to be back at practice Thursday. If there's we just don't know at this point. So Watson, totally fine. He returned and was good to go. But Devonte Wyatt, Anthony Johnson Jr., and Darnell Savage all dropped out of practice, did not return. It seems like Wyatt's going to be fine based on the interviews and things like that in the locker room after. But Anthony Johnson Jr. and Darnell Savage, not so sure. With AJJ and Darnell Savage both going out of practice, it did look like Tyrell Ford, who had been playing at corner and did continue to play some corner as well, did get a couple looks back at safety. He was kind of a hybrid corner safety and like initially listed at safety on the depth chart. He's been corner as of late, but he might be a player that gets some time at safety in preseason if both Savage and Anthony Johnson Jr. are unable to play. Now let's talk about Jordan Love next. He had a phenomenal day until the 2-minute drill at the very end of practice. So 2-minute drill, down by 7, own 30-yard line, minute plus left, 1 timeout. Gets I think either at least 1 first down. I think he was, driving towards the second first down, and the drive had looked pretty decent to start off with. I think it was like a third down play, but either way, he forces a ball into Romeo Doubs. It was, sort of dual possession for a little bit, but Rasul Douglas ultimately ripped it away from him and ended up with the interception. Probably not the throw that Jordan wanted to make in that specific situation. As I mentioned, it was kind of like a 50-50. Both players had a chance at it. Rasul was the one, I think, who had a better chance and did ultimately come away with it. But Rasul had the pick. He ends a very strong training camp overall. Did have the one play in camp where he got beat on the deep ball against the Patriots. But outside of that, Rasul had a very, very nice training camp and a way to, really end his, official training camp with an interception in the end of the 2-minute drill. And you were a little bit more fine with it from a Jordan Love and offensive standpoint because Jordan Love, up until that point, had been fantastic on the day. He had 2 absolute wow throws. We'll go through kind of all the throws that stood out to me. First of all, you had a play that it's coming right. So Tucker Kraft is like kind of coming up the seam. And it's kind of like, I don't know if it was like a delayed route or what it was, but he's coming up the seam. And it almost looked like Jordan, he's going to the right. I don't know if it was like a setup screen or what it was, but he's like coming right. And it looks to me and where I was standing, like it was almost like a no-look pass up the seam where he knew exactly where Tucker Kraft was going to be. The whole defense starts to bite inside and Love just hit him in stride and it's a big gain down the middle of the field. I immediately was like, whoo, and looked over to Paul Brettel and he was like, whoo, you could tell, it was just we had a great vantage point on it to exactly what Jordan was doing. He manipulated the defense the entire time and then either no look or maybe like a quick glance at best got back to Tucker Kraft. Kraft is running up the seam. Love hits him in stride and it's a big gain down the middle of the field. So that was the first one. And then in I think it was a red zone period, he's got Luke Musgrave in, running I think like a deep, kind of corner route in sort of the back of the end zone. Rudy Ford is in coverage and Love puts it in a picture perfect spot for Musgrave. Musgrave goes up and gets it. Rudy Ford has no chance and Musgrave comes down and I don't think he knew where he was. I think he thought he had plenty of end zone left when in fact he was in the very back of the end zone. Musgrave should have come down with that with 2 feet. It's a play he has to make. He knew it immediately after the fact. He was frustrated himself for not realizing it. He would have been able, I think, to just easily toe tap down, but I just think he thought he had tons of, leeway left in the back of the end zone to make that play. Instead, first foot down in bounds, second foot down out of bounds, and it's a harmless incompletion, what should have been a awesome touchdown play. So that's some of the rookie and learning stuff that you're going to get from a very young offense. But up until that point, up until that second foot came down out of bounds, it was a picture perfect play. And you don't discredit Jordan and his throw and his read and everything he did on that play because Musgrave made the mistake, right? It was a beautiful pass, should have been a touchdown, and really, really good stuff from Jordan. And then coming back after that, this is the same situation as yesterday. It was, I think, 17 seconds left. You're on the opposing team's 25-yard line. It's a tie game. It could either be an end of half or end of game situation. I think it's more of like end of half because at end of game, you would be much more conservative, right? So it's got to be the end of a half. And you're trying to maybe get in the end zone or at least give yourself better field goal range, but you don't, and you want to take the clock down a little, but you can't get caught with running out the clock and not having any time to kick the field goal. Yesterday, it was Christian Watson who came down with the touchdown in this scenario from Jordan Love, and Sean Clifford, they ended up running out of time. He couldn't get the spike down and they ran out of time and didn't get any points out of it, right? So they're running that same situation again. First play, just like yesterday. Yesterday was Christian Watson for the touchdown. This play, Luke Musgrave. This was a beauty of a throw. Musgrave is coming in the back of the end zone. Love's got to get it up over the linebackers, but before the end of the end zone, and he throws it where only Musgrave can get it up and over the linebacker, and in a position where Musgrave can make a sliding catch in the back of the end zone, still get full body control in without being out of bounds. Love threw the ball exactly where it needed to be. There was a sliver of an opportunity to complete that pass. Love made it happen. Also knowing with where he put the ball, if Musgrave doesn't catch it, it's either A, like slightly out of bounds, or B, it's going to be incomplete, meaning that the clock is going to stop. You're not at risk for running out the clock or anything like that. The ball was amazing. Musgrave did a phenomenal job of making a sliding catch for the touchdown, and it was just all around amazing play by the offense. That was the type of day that it had been on offense. Consistent completions, more crossing routes that were really, really good, more out routes that were really, really good from Jordan. Up until the final interception to Douglas, I thought that was his best day of practice. Just like it was the complete full story of everything he had sort of learned at training camp up until that point, and he put it together in the final day of practice up until the final interception, where again, he's done such an amazing job of taking care of the football throughout the course of training camp that you're willing to have a little bit of forgiveness there. And it was more of a tip your cap moment for Rasul Douglas than I thought it was like a horrible, awful decision by Love. Would he like to have it back? Yes. Do I think it was the right read and the right throw? No, but it wasn't an egregious mistake either. Again, 50-50 ball. Both players had their hands on it. Douglas ultimately wins it out, and that ends the 2-minute drive. But outside of that one throw that, again, was contested 50-50, it was a phenomenal day for Jordan and really a phenomenal way to end training camp officially. Still a lot of practices left. The media will be out there tomorrow on another practice that will feel the same as every other training camp practice, just without fans. But still, official end of training camp, and you love to see that sort of day from Jordan Love. One other shout out really quick here, Jadakiss Bonds. 2 straight awesome days. So in 7-on-7 yesterday, he beat his corner. Quarterback just didn't get it to him, but it would have been a big play down the field if they did. Then later in practice, him and Alex Magoo get a 90-yard touchdown pass down the sideline where he just went, he completely beat the corner, made the catch, and then, huge touchdown down the field. In this particular practice, he's got he beat Hooper on the right side in team drills, and Clifford hit him in stride. I don't know if it was a touchdown or if it was just a big gain, but either way, really fantastic play there. And then in Sean Clifford's 2-minute drill, he hits him on about a 30-yard deep corner route, and I thought Bonds did a awesome job on really adjusting to the ball and making sure that he was going to catch the ball, but then also getting out of bounds. Just really, really good stuff from Bonds, who early in camp, and going back to OTAs and mini camps and whatnot, I didn't see much from him. He was dropping passes. It just didn't look like he was ready. He's made a significant jump. What that means for him is he's in the practice squad conversation. I would say him, Cody Crest, Bo Melton, those sort of players very much in the practice squad conversation now, but 2 really nice back-to-back days for Jadakiss Bonds. Last but not least, Sean Clifford, very last 2-minute drive, same situation as Jordan Love, down 7, own 30-yard line, minute something left, 1 timeout. He drives the team all the way down, gets the opportunity, down inside the 20-yard line, throws a touchdown pass to Grant Dubose, who really did a nice job on his route. Little double move on the inside in the slot. Got the corner to bite, then continued his route upfield, high pointed the ball, came down with it 2 feet down, touchdown in the end zone from Sean Clifford. They went for 2 and for the win. Rolling to the right, one of those little rollout 2-point plays where the slot guy's trying to get out on a quick out. Watts beats Gaines on the quick out. Also, Dubose beat Gaines in the slot as well. Not a great series for Ennis Gaines, but Watts beats him on the out. Clifford hits him in stride on the very last play of the very last training camp practice of 2023. Sean Clifford to Deuce Watts, 2-point conversion, offense gets the win, and it was kind of a fun way to end training camp 2023. That was pretty much all. Jordan Love stayed after practice an extremely long time to high-five fans, sign a ton of autographs. There's more to QB1 in Green Bay than just the stuff on the field. You are the face of the franchise. You are that guy that everyone's looking at. And Jordan Love has handled that aspect of it with flying aces. He's been amazing, right? And he's really been, a spectacular locker room presence and, face of the franchise and those sort of things. He's done all of those things perfectly, and he deserves a lot of credit for that as well. His on-field stuff continues to be a step in the right direction. Really nice practice overall through the course of the day on Wednesday, and then continues to handle himself with class as well. So cool to see that. That's going to do it for me today. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll be right back here tomorrow with a full breakdown of today's practice. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.